From the east, house of light, may wisdom dawn in us, so we may see all things in clarity. From the north, house of night, may wisdom ripen in us, so we may know all from within. From the west, house of transformation, may wisdom be transformed into right action, so we may do what must be done. From the south, house of the eternal sun, may right action reap the harvest, so we may enjoy the fruits of planetary being. From above, house of heaven, where star people and ancestors gather, may their blessings come to us now. From below, house of earth, may the heartbeat of her crystal core bless us with harmonies to end all war. From the center, galactic source, which is everywhere at once, may everything be known as the light of mutual love. Yum Hunab Gu Eva Maya E Ma Ho. Yum Hunab Gu Eva Maya E Ma Ho. Yum Hunab Gu Eva Maya E Ma Ho. All hail the harmony of mind and nature.
Welcome to Viada's Tiny House Village. And tonight it's all about my best friend, my confidant, my brother, my almost lover, Jonathan Sebastian Blount. Jonathan transitioned this past week, in fact, 7/20/20, let's see, 9 days ago. And his life and his journey will never, ever leave us. It's just sealed in our memory. So tonight, I want to play a conversation that Jonathan and I had 4 years ago. We met at the Orlando Tiny House Village right here in Orlando. And we sat outside for over almost an hour and did this video and talked about everything you can imagine, except the more intimate stuff. We didn't touch on that as much. But Jonathan meant so much to me. In the 20 years that I knew him, he was in and out of my life. And I'm sure that it was a soul connection because he just kept coming and going in and out of my life. And so I hope you'll enjoy this conversation that Jonathan and I had 4 years ago sitting outside at the Orlando Community Tiny House Village. And at that time, Jonathan was looking for a tiny house. So it was very, very appropriate that this is the day that Jonathan comes back into our lives live and in color. So I hope you enjoy this and feel free to comment, and I will try and post the comments. And I will post my phone number in case some of you want to call in and express your thoughts about this video, about Jonathan, whatever. But this video is approximately an hour long. I think I'm going to play the full video because it really does give you a beautiful perspective and memory of this amazing soul that I really came to love and respect and appreciate. There will never be another like him. And just a sexy man, an intelligent man, a classy man. And at 80 years old, he decided to transition and move on to greater things. So he's not really gone. He's still in our hearts and he will forever be in our memory. So I hope you enjoyed this conversation that Jonathan and I had almost 4 years ago. And brother Jonathan Blount. And Jonathan and I have known each other actually more since 2005. That's when I first met you.
Really?
Because my sister was here visiting. It may have even been before that. But my sister was here visiting. You came to visit a church over on Orange Blossom, I think it was. And we met you, and then you took us back to your house, gave us a tour, and that's when I first met you. And then I used to see Jonathan all over Orlando at different events, Black events here or there. And then we met up recently in Orlando because he was looking for a tiny house. So Jonathan has come a long way, even with all his glory, fame, success. He still was interested in living in a tiny house. So see, it touches everyone at some point, doesn't it?
Well, I mean, it's just the most practical alternative to living.
Yeah.
I mean, a tiny house, if you think about the space in an apartment, and then you've got your neighbors and you can hear through the walls and all compacted together. But you take that apartment space and make it into an individual space. And basically you have a tiny house.
Right.
And it's much more convenient. It's much more individual. And it's much less expensive than living in larger housing spaces. What you find is really most people. I have a friend of mine who lives in this 20,000 square foot mansion.
Did you say 20,000?
20,000 square
Yeah,
foot mansion.
it's a McMansion.
And yet they basically live in 3 rooms.
Yeah.
They
Oh,
live in the
yeah.
kitchen, they live in the bedroom,
Yeah.
and occasionally they live in the living room of the family room or something. But usually only when there's company that comes over to the house. But basically, they live in the bedroom and the kitchen.
I worked for a couple who lived in a McMansion like that. They upstairs, they had a theater, and they bought a refrigerator that cost $17,000. That's how much money was flowing in that house and how big it was. And when I asked for a raise for me and my partner, we were cleaning their house. I cleaned that house for 15 years. What fire got me fired was I asked for a raise for $25 every 2 weeks. And they said, oh no, we can't do that. Adios. Like I had enough of this. But Jonathan is involved in a major docu-series project. Please share with us what that's all about.
I was very, very blessed to be a part of a reverse pregnancy.
Reverse pregnancy?
Yes.
Okay.
My godmother, Claire Terry, in 1968, planted a seed. And that seed was, why don't you start a magazine for Black women? And my most immediate reaction was, oh, that'll never work. That's been tried before. And she said something to me that was very profound. She said, well, Jonathan, these are just the times. She said, I've lived long enough to have been colored, to have been a Negro, and now I'm becoming African American. She said, so Black women are changing. And so there is a need for them to have information, education, reflection, things like that. Really on things. And I thought about it. And then sometimes, as Victor Hugo said, nothing is so powerful as an idea of the time has come. And in late 1968, early 1969, the time had come for a magazine for Black women. And that magazine idea, the seed that she planted, found fertile ground in someone I met, Cecil Hollingsworth, who had an office in Midtown Manhattan. And at that time in 1969, there were no black offices in Midtown Manhattan other than Ebony Magazine was at a small office on Sixth Avenue. And he was visionary enough to have his own office in a converted brownstone where he had a printing brokerage business. And he was going to start a black advertising agency, the Hollingsworth Group. The Hollingsworth Group morphed into Essence Communication. And after a year and a half, we were able to launch Essence.
And so you, along with this woman, started off Essence Magazine from this conversation, right? I mean, it was a conversation.
It was. I mean, and after a while, the idea possessed me.
Yeah.
And I couldn't shake it. It was all I could think about. And I started going to fashion shows, beauty salons, everywhere black women would congregate. And I'd be asking them these invasive questions. What do you read? Where do you get your fashion ideas from? And all of these very personal questions. Does the makeup that you wear fit you and suit you? And the answer was no. And really, there was nowhere that they could see themselves. And all the magazines had white women in them, white images, information about white people, and they wanted something more. They said that resounding, and so Shearson, the Wall Street brokerage firm at that time, embraced the Nixon administration's idea of black capitalism. And Maurice Stans, who was the Secretary of Commerce, they went around to all their major Republican corporate donors and said, look, we need to have a program that puts black people in business. And this was really basically a response to the riots of 1968.
Mm-hmm.
And we need to show them that they can be more, have more, do more. And we need to provide platforms and mechanisms for which they can do that. So they set up this program called MESBICS, Minority Enterprise Small Business Investment Corporation.
Okay.
So these companies set aside space in their complexes and corporations. They hired these investment advisors and financial minds. And basically they were set up to invest in black people and to provide a cocoon environment to accelerate their growth. And so some companies would have $5 million, some would have $100 million set aside in these funds. And they went around and they set about to find black people to put in business. And Russ Goins, who was a retired NFL player, contacted Shearson, a Wall Street brokerage firm. And basically it was like the film Trading Places, where they said, he said, you finance all these white people down here and you lose millions of dollars. He said, if you finance black people, they could have the same success. I bet you, and probably more. And they made a bet. They said, okay, Russ, you on. You find us some black people, we'll finance them, and let's see what happens. So they sent out a call to black professionals who wanted to be entrepreneurs. And they set up meetings, and they brought us all in, and they told us what their plans were. And they would say things like, look, we raised hundreds of millions of dollars down here this year. And quite frankly, the majority of the new businesses, they don't work out. And we're of the opinion that you guys should have the same opportunities to succeed or fail as the white guy. And if you all can come up with some ideas, we'll back you. And I'm sitting there in the meeting, and my friend at that time, Bill Day, who was in sales at Armadale, I was in sales at New Jersey Bell, the elevator division. And all of we new young black executives in sales kind of gravitated to each other. So we became friends, and he told me one day, he said, well, Jonathan, that idea for this magazine we've been talking about, we're having a meeting on Wall Street where we're going to try to find black businesses to finance. Why don't you come down and present your idea? routine. You know, after about 2 hours, they were explaining what they were prepared to do and so forth. And most of the guys in the room, there were about maybe 25, 30 of us, around a big board table. And most of the guys said, well, look, you know, we're just getting our feet into this, like, executive ranks. We don't want to. We don't know if we want to take a risk. We don't know if you all are really, really, you know, valid. And my friend looked over at me and he just kind of nudged me. So I raised my hand and I said, yes. And I said, well, look, I've been sitting here now almost 2 hours listening to you. And I want to know when you want to start hearing proposals. And the executive vice president, Michael Victory, shot back at me immediately. He said, right now. And I said, well, I have an idea for a magazine. And he came back at me and said, you know, a fashion magazine for Black women should work. And I jumped up and I said, well, that's exactly what I have in mind. And he being, he was a real wonder kid, executive vice president of corporate finance. And he was a sharp, Harvard trained MBA. And he remembered the people who were in the room. And he said, well, there's a guy over there, he's got a printing company, you're gonna need somebody to print it. There's another guy over there in advertising, you're gonna need somebody to sell advertising. There's another guy over here in finance. You know, you all ought to get together. So I reached across the table, I took everybody's cards, and I went home that night and I called everybody up. And the enthusiasm among everybody was really high. So they said, you know, well, we ought to get together. So we agreed to get together at the Dollhouse Restaurant on 7th Avenue near 135th Street that Saturday morning, 10 o'clock.
And how many years ago was this?
This was 1969.
Also, I was trying to calculate how many years. You have a great memory to all these details.
Well, I mean, because I lived it.
And is it in a book yet?
No, there's a book on the way.
Yeah, I know.
And even probably more significant than a book is the Oprah Winfrey Network is doing a docuseries on the genesis of Essence, which is in production right now.
And so Jonathan is here in Orlando getting ready to do a docuseries on the beginning of Essence magazine. And he is so kind to take the time out to sit down with me because this is the type of character that he is. And I had somebody, I don't want to forget, somebody asked a question when I told him I was going to be talking to you. They wanted to know how big your sales staff was when Essence started. How did you?
In the very beginning, we had a sales staff of 4 people.
4 people.
And we came up with the bright idea that the best sales person for the magazine would be this new Black woman we talked about.
Okay.
Because when we first went into the waters of Wall Street and we started talking about the magazine, this new emerging invisible Black woman, the Wall Street executives, most of whom were older white men, they went home and they talked to the only Black women they knew who were their maids and servants. And their maids and servants basically weren't magazine readers. And they would come back and say, well, you know, I talked to Sally Mae, and Sally Mae said she doesn't want a magazine. And we had to tell them that that is not our audience. That's the old audience of Black women. There's a new emerging audience of Black women who are educated, motivated, want to have more, do more, be more. And they're going after it aggressively. I said, we're on the rising curve of that tide.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to meet those women at their point of interest and need. So it was really conceivable that we should have this Black woman going out into the marketplace, selling advertising and telling the advertisers that we're the audience that you're not reaching on. And this will be a vehicle to which you can reach it. And it was very interesting because no Black company, no Black person in the history of finance had ever gone to Wall Street and raised any money to do anything in 1969.
Wow. So this was a first.
We were the first to do that. In fact, we preceded Black Enterprise, BET Television, uh, the National Black Radio Network, and all of them basically used our same paradigm. They all basically used the same financial institutions, and they followed the road that we take. And so, significantly, we were the vanguard of major financing of Black businesses as a part of the corporate, financial, and institutional network in America. And not only that, but the other element was in 1968 and 9, there were really no images of Black women anywhere, except Ebony and Jet. And they were just breaking into images on magazines. Naomi Sims was in 1969 was on the cover of Life, and there wasn't a Black model industry. And I was in the hospital recently for 5 days, and there wasn't much to do but watch television.
Yeah.
And I noticed a trend. I kept seeing all of these ads with Black leading characters. So I started making notes. And right now, I'm up to 178 recurring ads on television, commercials, that have Black male or female leads.
Well, you know why? Because Black people are caught up in consumerism. They are targeting them with ads, and that's why we're so addicted to buy, consume.
But interestingly, I mean, these are ads that are not targeted for Black people. They're targeted to the general interest audience. And I think what has happened is that I remember growing up when we would have a colored on television, the word would go out throughout the community.
Yeah.
Louis Armstrong, Pearl Bailey, they're going to be on television tonight.
Right.
I mean, and everybody would tune in to watch and see the color that was on television.
Right.
But now, they have now become mainstream.
Yeah.
And I think what has happened is, the Black characters and the Black actors, they're stronger, they're more vital, they're more vibrant, they look better, they look different. I mean, so you're getting out of the miasma of just all of these continuous stream of white images, which don't really attract your attention. And I just think that the consciousness of the art directors and the producers and so forth has really accelerated, and we've really now come into our own. I mean, look at what has happened. I mean, you had 4 Black female title holders at the same time: Miss USA, Miss Universe, Miss America, Miss Teen America, all at the same time.
Right.
I mean, these are things that were absolutely unheard of. So I'd like to think that as a historical note, that we had a lot to do with that. We had a lot to do with changing the imagery of Black women. We had a lot to do with changing their internal monologue and dynamic.
Yeah.
We had an opportunity to project them, to present them, to promote them, to recognize them, to enhance them, to inform them, to educate them. And essentially, we brought the image of Black women into the mainstream of America and brought their consciousness into the mainstream of America and brought them to be a part and parcel of the general market landscape.
Yeah, so let's come full circle here, or move fast forward. Success has its cost, because one of those Miss America jumped off a building recently. And then there's a high rate of depression among successful people. Medication for antidepressants are being prescribed in large numbers. And so success comes at such a high cost now. It's a wonderful thing to review this beautiful history of Black people. But what is it that brought you, even you, with all your success, to want to live in a tiny house? I mean, 2021, that's how we connected again because Jonathan was interested in purchasing my tiny house. But Orlando, Florida is not too friendly with placing tiny houses on even empty lots. So tell them about your journey forward to want to live in a tiny house and then all the red tape that we had to go through to try and get a lot and
Yeah,
place
I
a
mean,
tiny.
tiny house living is just very, very practical. I mean, I've lived in huge mansions, and I remember that we only used basically one or two rooms in the house. And the cost and the expense, I mean, it would cost $1,400 a month just to heat and air condition that house.
Right.
And all of the upkeep and all of the things that you have to deal with, and just paying the landscapers, the gardeners, this and that. I mean, I've had all those experiences, and I just reached a point in my consciousness when you know, unfortunately, my wife died, and the children were now grown and gone, and there was just no point. There's no reason, to be living in a big house.
Right.
And the practicality of the economics of life, it just made sense. And I had lived in apartments before, and I really didn't necessarily want to return to that. And because you have no equity, every month you're paying a landlord or landowner, and you're basically building their dream, and you're building the generational wealth for their family. So it just made sense to say, okay, um, I can downsize and I can reduce my expenses dramatically because I was going to pay for the tiny house outright. So all I needed was a place to put it.
Which wasn't so easy.
Well, and I thought it would be really, especially in Center City, Orlando, in Paramore Heritage, Holden Heights, where you have a concentration of Black people, a concentration of light, and you have just an absolute plethora of empty and vacant lots. And I found out that the city in District 5 alone owned 35 vacant lots that were just sitting there. They were attracting vagrants, and attracting trash, and they were overgrown and not being kept up and so forth. So I had been very active in services for the homeless. In fact, there's a program called SALT, Service and Live Together, which had mobile hygiene units for the homeless. And, this group of kids came together and they custom built this trailer with 4 shower stalls, 4 toilets, uh, and sinks, and a caboose that followed it that had change of clothing and toiletries and all kinds of amenities. And they were having difficulty finding a place to deploy. They were only able to deploy it in one place in the city, and they were only able to afford to do that once a month at best. They had no staff. This was all volunteer. I got involved with them. I introduced them into the home services network. I introduced them to all of the homeless uh, administration in the city and county and state. And through my direct advocacy, which was extensive and concentrated, they were able to get $1.4 million to deploy this mobile hygiene unit, not just one day a month, but 4 days a week.
Wow.
So they now have 14 people on staff, and they have a permanent location for it. And it's now servicing the homeless, because one of the main problems with homeless people is they have nowhere to go to the bathroom. They have no place to clean up. They don't have any change of clothes to change in. So all of these limitations do not allow them to have a pathway to being housed, because you got to get clean first, because you don't want to go see people and they don't want to see you if you're dirty and filthy and stinking. And so it changed the whole trajectory of homelessness in Orlando. And so after having done that work and been credited, I was able to get the Orlando Utilities Commission to pay for putting solar paneling on the unit so that they no longer were dependent on terrestrial electrical outlets because they have to power the pumps and the things. And so with the solar paneling, now they're no longer terrestrially bound to any given location. They could go anywhere. All they had to do was fill up the tanks with water, and they had a continuous source of power. So, they would have these ribbon cuttings to announce these new programs and these new deployments and so forth. And I would always be heralded as the person, who brought this to everyone's attention and kept it on their radar and kept pushing for it. And so I thought that this would be really easy. I said, okay, what I want to do now is I'd like to be in the vanguard of starting the tiny house revolution. And what I'd like to do is I'd like to install this one, and then I want to go along to the corporate sector and get organizations and corporations to sponsor tiny homes for the homeless,
Right.
and put them on these vacant lots sitting there empty. And we could deploy 3 or 4 of them on a given space. I just thought that this was just a no-brainer.
Yeah, me too.
I mean, to me, it's just as simple as, banning assault weapons. They banned assault weapons. Mass killings went down. The minute the ban was lifted, they tripled. And so this is not something that really is going to require any debate.
Right.
Certainly, everyone is going to embrace it.
Right.
Quite frankly, nobody embraced it. But I mean, I was so shocked. And they started talking about, well, we're not really zoned for this, and we haven't really discussed it, and there's certain ordinances that we probably are going to have to apply, and this is going to take time, and and I even found where the city had financed a housing initiative for a veterans nonprofit where they had taken vacant land and they had financed putting these units in place. And I said, well, it's just as simple. We just follow the paradigm that you've already laid. No, thank you. I mean, no, honestly and truly.
Yeah, I know.
I mean,
it was
really
crazy.
I mean, honestly, I can't. I can't to this day fathom, except that to me, the city already has a plan for those spaces, and it doesn't include us.
Right.
Because I always call Orlando the hole in the economic donut for Black people. In the 25 years that I've been here, I've seen Orlando just boom. I mean, just bloom. I mean, spaces that were nothing but orange groves are now Millennium Malls and premium outlet malls. All of these phenomenal things, and these great housing development, and incredible businesses, franchises, all over the city. But I dare you to go and find me any Black-owned institution.
Well,
with rare exceptions, the Gilchrist Group owns McDonald's. But after that, please,
yeah, nothing much.
please, honestly. And
Well, isn't part of the problem that culturally, racially, whatever, we have a problem uniting and working on a common goal, like buying land and developing a tiny house community. Look at this place. I mean, this guy has developed a legendary place here that will go on with his children, I'm sure. They're going to inherit all this. And this is just a fabulous investment on this piece of property with a lake.
which was a trailer park.
Yeah, which was a trailer park. So it was just a matter of moving the trailers out and moving in tiny houses. Seems so simple, but compared to what you just described in the city of Orlando. So it really is a community effort or an individual effort to me to have a community like this. You can't depend on the city and the politics of the city to be the school, right?
No, unfortunately, the missing ingredient in successful development application in Orlando is to be white.
Well, there's some truth to that for sure. From your experience, you've seen it.
I'm telling you, I, I'm I'm not I'm not I've seen but a very few black initiatives that have gotten any traction, and hopefully that may be changing. There's the Heritage Land Trust that is building a few houses over on Orange Center Boulevard at Tampa, uh, and I think that's a start. But that is a real rare situation.
Well, you visited the place where my tiny house was parked, and we both probably agree that was the most one of the most peaceful locations, and definitely remote, but
And no regulations and
and
no
no
restrictions,
regulations, no
no
restrictions,
nothing.
So it's
The man
all
had his land out there and he
yeah,
could do whatever he wanted
that's
to
right,
in Umatilla.
right. And so that's what I think the message for all of us is that's what we're going to have to do to develop sovereignty and independence and community
Everybody
like this.
that in history that has vocalized and been in the vanguard of independent action, living, services for Black people have been assassinated, either physically, psychologically, psychosocially, or economically. I mean, that there's this cabal. Uh, it's almost like a hidden organism that goes into place anytime Black people stand up, anytime Black leadership emerges or begins to arise. There's this force that automatically genuflects into destroying it, into destabilizing it, into discrediting it.
Now, what about Edenville? Edenville is pretty much in the center of Orlando, or at least part of Orlando, Central Florida.
I mean, it sits between Orlando, Maitland, and Winter Park.
Right. So
what great real estate?
what political restrictions or what restrictions do you think they have in terms of tiny house living? Have you looked into Eatonville?
Yeah, Eatonville is a very political animal, and unless you are an Eatonvillian,
Okay.
you're just not going to get very far.
Now, tell them a little bit about Eatonville. It's what is it? One of the first black formed
incorporated
communities
in the United States.
in the United States. Yeah.
And it just has not, really developed and progressed. The same Eatonville that I saw when I came here over 25 years ago is basically the same Eatonville that's there now. It's with the exception of the gentrification of Paramore.
Mm-hmm.
The same Paramore that I saw when I came here 25 years ago is still there now, with the exception of the Creative Village and the area along West Church Street that has been redeveloped by major white developers. I mean, why Black people don't come together and why they didn't respond when they first saw that the white power structure and interest was moving into that community and started to buy up and assemble the land. Why Black people didn't get together and buy it and buy those land bases and land masses is a mystery to me. I don't understand it to this day. It was just totally and completely just perplexing.
Well, I think for me at least, um, we're at a time of not recognizing faith, color, or race, but consciousness. Because most of the people in my life who are really conscious and aware of the government's evil plans and psychopathic and warmongering are not of dark skin. A lot of, there's a mixture of people in my own life who are conscious, but they're certainly not all white or black or even Puerto Rican. I have such a diverse group of friends, and the people who I associate with most of the time, I just consider them conscious. I don't care what color they are. They just need to be awake to what's going on around us and how we can change it by unifying. Because I'm going to connect with you, not because you're darker skinned. I'm going to connect because you're conscious and you're aware of what the political scene is, and your wisdom is here. So it's mostly to me about people that don't have the wisdom or the consciousness. They're going to be the ones suffering and dying and not be a part of the unification that we're all going through.
So what happened to us? There was a time, I mean, when I came up in the civil rights era, I went to jail at 15 because we were trying to assassinate the Grand Dragon Ku Klux Klan in Monroe, North Carolina. And we are the first African Americans in the 21st century to take up arms against the Ku Klux Klan and win and live to tell about it. We actually routed them. I actually went through a situation where a crowd of over 3,000 whites tried to disable our car and lynch us. They had the ropes in hand, and only because we had guns in the car. And my Uncle Robert Williams jumped out of the car with an automatic rifle in his hand and said, "We can't kill all of you, but I want to know who's going to be the first to die." And he ordered us. He said, "Shoot the first one that moves." And all of a sudden, we all trained guns in the crowd, and they all jumped back and yelled and screamed, "Oh my God, the niggas got guns! The niggas got guns!" And then the police who were escorting us, who had disappeared as soon as they let us into the crowd, all of a sudden reappeared and said, "Okay, we'll lead you out of here. Give us your gun." And Robert said, "Give me our gun. We're not surrendering to no mob. You can't control this mob. We give you our weapons, man, and they'll just kill us. You can't."
Here we are today in 2022. It seems to be the effort still reverberating. Give us your guns. We'll protect you.
Well, unfortunately, the Ku Klux Klan in many cases took off their white robes and put on blue uniform.
Yeah.
So now they kill under the umbrella and the color of law. I have a friend of mine, my roommate, college roommate, who was white, and his son became a major leader in a little small town in New Jersey. And he rose to the ranks of administrative leadership. And so my friend Peter, has always been just very liberal, very, very, just a wonderful, open human being. So he's telling his son when he said, "David," he said, "what is it about, why is it that you all allow all these blacks to just kill each other? Nobody seems to do anything about it." And his son turned to him and said, "Dad, when blacks kill blacks, we consider it a self-cleaning oven."
Ooh.
Ooh. Ooh. Yeah. No, yeah. I mean, that is just riveting.
Yeah, it is. Self-cleaning oven.
A self-cleaning oven. In other words, you remember with the metal cry when they massacred the natives that they called Indians. They were the only good Indian is a dead Indian, and they went and they massacred all the buffalo, and they went in and gave the population smallpox, and they would just kill, the people and take their land.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, that mentality still exists.
Mm-hmm.
I saw recently someone posed a question that said, if all of the horror of experiences that we as a people have endured in our 270 years of slavery and post-Jim Crow, if all of that is carried in our DNA and passed along as a fear template to our children, is it not also true that the DNA of the murderers and the rapists and the marauders of generations of white people who did this, don't you think that DNA is passed along in their seed to their children? And now we're seeing it manifest itself, because when we were coming along, we were of the opinion that it was the old racist crackers that had to die out and everything would be fine. That the younger generation of young whites would be open and embracing, non-prejudice, non-racial. And when I look around now, and I see that it is these young white kids, 18 years old, 20 years old, that are expressing their hatred to black people. Remember, all those kids in Valladolid mostly were brown kids. They were Hispanic.
Oh, Uvalde in
Uvalde,
Texas?
yeah.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And then all of them in Tops in Buffalo were black. And it was the young people that did this. So this hatred uh, is inveterate, and unfortunately, it seems to be
Well,
planted
but here's
in that
the
DNA.
underside of that is this government is trying to promote division amongst the people. And it's interesting to me that the shooters were killed so that they didn't have anyone to confess or dispute whatever the government's position was. So
And they didn't have any way to tell the story about
yeah,
what influenced them.
yeah. So
Because those influences, some are saying the influences come from, uh, um, the internet and the white racists and
of course,
supremacists that radicalized them, but they all killed so that there's no way to get that information.
right. So there's a rabbit hole with all these mass shootings, in my opinion, because for many years now, it's been revealed that the government had something to do with these mass shootings. But I want to get back to the idea, the question you're asking, what happened with the black community? Why we're so divided? I think a lot of it has to do with the urbanization of the black family. You and I both know that the government insisted black men should not even live with their families because there was more assistance to the woman if the man, the husband or the father wasn't at home. But I think also with the migration of families from the South, Jim Crow South, to the urban areas of the North, that we lost that sense of family and unity because everybody was out to get their own and make money and be successful. And now you've got stress involved because, as I said, depression is up, stress levels are up because people are out now to be successful versus bringing the families together,
Well, but
buying
they
land and all that.
deindustrialized all of the urban communities. When we were coming up, you had major manufacturing facilities that were in the community.
Right.
And people went to work in the factories,
Right.
and then working in the factories, they made more money than college graduates make now.
Right.
And so, you didn't have to have a college degree. They totally deindustrialized the education system because there was a time when you could take plumbing and trade.
Yeah.
And you were taught
automobile mechanics.
You were taught trade.
Yeah.
So you didn't have to take a loan out of $40, $50, $100,000 to go to an education system that trains you for a job that doesn't exist.
Right.
So they made us totally systemically dependent.
Right.
And taking, in the 1970s, 70% of black households had two parents.
Right.
In the 1990s, better than 80% of black households were single-headed households by women.
Mm-hmm.
And this was by design.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, even now, a black woman, if you get married, you have a husband, your public assistance is eviscerated. But if you say single, you still get your money.
Exactly. So that's why I think after the last 2 years of taking away our freedoms of choice of even medical injections, should have taught most of us that we need to bring back our sovereignty and take control of communities and families again. And
Yes,
it's a
well,
process.
that's
it's
wonderful.
a process.
How does one do that?
Well,
where's the black leadership in Orlando?
Well,
where are the black churches in leadership in Orlando?
Yeah.
Where are the black organizations in Orlando that are advocating any kind of leadership position?
Well, but see,
any kind of unification positions?
Well,
any kind of common agenda positions? Tell me where that is.
Well,
tell me who's doing that.
They're not. only on a consciousness level. This community right here is interesting. I was shocked to find people of color living in here because 5, 7 years ago that wasn't happening. You didn't
No,
have
not when it was a trailer park.
right, exactly. Even yeah, even in the trailer park, there were no black
There were
people
no
in there.
black. None.
So
That's
now
right.
I was like, oh my goodness, there's actually black people living in this beautiful tiny house community. And all of the people living here are pretty much getting along from what I'm hearing. Everybody loves their neighbors, they're getting along. So it's not about race anymore right now. It's about community and consciousness. And that's what we're trying to, our discussion today is a lot about history and where our generation has been in terms of living together, working together, marrying. And I have two grandchildren who are biracial now. I don't know about your grandchildren. Are
Yes.
both their parents black?
No.
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 So here we sit. Here we
No.
sit. We're
No.
raising a new generation of
Father's
biracial.
Italian and Native American.
There we go. So we're raising a new generation of biracial.
And one of the most magnificent.
I can't say that about mine, but I love my grandchildren. That's all I'll say. They're beautiful souls. I'm a proud grandma of two amazing souls. So doesn't it become, Jonathan, a soul journey with people, connecting with people based on the spark in their eye to unite with people, no matter what color they are, but because we have a common goal to be in a community like this, where we don't want
Well, but now we
mansion.
can be in a community like that.
Exactly.
Like
So,
when you were here 6 years ago, we couldn't be in a community of any sort. You know, we are contained in our community. And if you don't believe that, find yourself in Winter Park after dark, in walking around in any community and see what happens to you.
well, I don't
Go
know.
to Windermere
Yeah.
and walk around in any community and see what happens to you.
Well, Windermere is definitely unique, but I lived close to Windermere and we didn't have any problem. I think it really depends on attitude wherever you're
Well,
living.
you didn't have any problem living in Utah,
No,
which
no, I
you
didn't.
know, I mean,
Which was a redneck city.
totally and
I mean,
completely.
even my landowner said, this is funny. My landowner used to say, not all niggers are black. I was like, huh? What? He said, there's plenty of white folks around here. I call them nigger. I'm like, really? My landlord and I, who was a redneck from appearance, but he was just a teddy bear in every other way. And we had the best conversations about things like that, race and all that. And he just didn't like niggers, period. He didn't care what color they were. They just, their behavior, they demonstrated ghetto behavior. He's like, get rid of them. So it really, you and I have biracial grandchildren. They're growing up to not recognize people by or judge people by the color of their skin, as Martin Luther King. But really, we're raising grandchildren to judge character, right?
Yeah, I mean, but my daughter is very, very emphatic about letting them understand that there is a difference.
Really?
Yeah, and she lets them understand that there is such a thing as racial prejudice.
Oh, okay.
And it's something that they are likely to experience.
Now they're only what age?
6 and 4.
That seems so early.
Yeah, but it's like it's so funny. Uh, they are totally and completely desensitized to the political affiliation. And she is totally anti-Republican, but they want to look past the labels.
The kid. Yeah,
and
absolutely.
see what the people do.
Absolutely.
So
yeah.
again,
And see, my
as
grandchildren.
Yeshua said, by their fruits you shall know them.
Exactly. And
Not
see,
by how they're living.
my grandchildren's mother
Not all Republicans are
my
bad.
grandchildren's mother is Colombian. There are dark-skinned Colombians as much as there are very pale Colombians. So
Right.
when
But I
they
bet the dark-skinned Colombians catch hell worse.
but they don't know that. My grandchildren
Yeah,
don't know
right,
that. They
right.
just know Spanish-speaking people come in different colors. And so it's really kind of a blessing that they have this mother who's from Colombia. One of my granddaughter's been to Colombia. So she has seen faces of different colors in Colombia and they all speak Spanish. That's the one thing, even about Puerto Rico. they don't look at each other so much as what color are you, but we all speak in the same language. So let's get along. We're gonna hablo español together. So I think we got to take on that American idea with our grandchildren. We are Americans, and let's really start looking at character and not look at face color. Because a community like this, you want to know your neighbors because they have consciously chosen to downsize and to minimalize, and they want everybody in here wants to have a peaceful community. They don't want to have any guns and riffraff in here. So I think that's where we're headed with our grandchildren, especially leading the way for a more biracial understanding and no racism whatsoever. If we are there to lead them and guide them, not just to, I mean, yeah, they need to know their history, but in this society, we don't want to be more division, have more division. And we want to teach them what is going on with people trying to divide us, even about skin color. The rain is here. Look at that. How appropriate that the rain comes down just as we are summing up this conversation. That living tiny is really about, in my opinion, consciousness. Because you're not thinking about how much stuff I can put in my house anymore. We're trying to get rid of things, let go of things, and live in a peaceful environment. Would you agree?
Well, absolutely. I mean, Orlando has something else that I think is now pervasive throughout a lot of urban communities. Because in making the transition, because I thought that, once I had the access to the tiny house, that, this would be easy and would be done in 30 days.
Yeah.
Minimum. So, yeah, gave up my house and thought I'd be moving right in. Well, that didn't happen.
Right.
So that put me in a situation where now, I'm hotel searching, and I live in these various hotels, and I found something else that I never could have possibly done. Almost all of the lower level hotels and motels surrounding Orlando were almost completely sold out. And there are people, I didn't know this, there are people that have been living in this one hotel room for years.
Wow.
Years. And they're spending an average of $1,100-$1,200 a month for a hotel room.
So that says a lot about homelessness.
Exactly, but in this community alone, many of these tiny houses, as you said, are on Airbnb, but some of them are totally rented out.
Yeah.
And one of them you pointed out is rented out at $1,400 a month. That is an absolute bargain for these people that are spending $1,200, $1,500, $1,400 a month for a hotel room.
Right.
And they are here by the thousand.
Wow.
Thousand.
Yeah.
And so there are hotel and motel owners that are just making money hand over fist. One of them has 400 units that are sold out at all times. And nearly 2/3 of them are permanent residents that are spending an average of $1,000 a month.
Well, that's
so just multiply that times 400.
Okay, so there's again another promotion for tiny house. Here's a question for you, knowing the homeless community. I'm going out to Lake Eola, for instance, and asking people who don't have a permanent home, if you knew how to build your house, would you think you'd be homeless? What do you think most of them would say? If you had the skills to build your own house, is it possible that would have prevented them from being in a hotel or some other place?
Well, I mean, but then again, it's also still the transition. You got to acquire the land.
Right.
You got to acquire the materials. It takes time. I mean, you basically have just renovated a tiny home, and it took you 3-4 months and thousands upon thousands of dollars to do it. I mean, you got to have the resources.
Right.
And here's a question that I want to pose to anybody who can answer it. Can somebody tell me how much money the government has spent on buying vaccines from pharmaceutical companies, from distributing those vaccines into their various locations, to storing those vaccines, and then for injections to the hundreds of millions that have been injected. And I was told at one point that for each injection, the injection site is paid $30 per injection. And right now we know that there's at least 200 million of those. How much money is all of that? Where did the money come from? Why don't we ever hear anything about it? And what is the real agenda? Because the doctors are even saying now that because of mutations of the strand, because every time you turn around now, there's a new mutation, there's a new variant.
Well,
And the old injection doesn't affect that variant. So what is the real agenda for that?
okay, so we might have to edit that out because it's going on YouTube and they're censoring things like that. But for now,
Really?
for those who are live, yeah, oh yeah, people are very sensitive about using certain words on YouTube. This is new for me, and even Facebook possibly. The word, the V word, they'll say the V, or they'll have a code for it. So we might have to edit it out. But that's a good question for you to think about in terms of a new paradigm of government in our country and our society, where the question that Jonathan just posed should all make us all think about how dependent we are on this warmongering government and this overspending, print out all the money you can ideas versus helping everybody have a house, a roof over their head, other than in a hotel.
It would relatively be so simple to do.
Oh my goodness!
What we don't have is the will.
Yeah. So I'm glad that I'm partnering with you as a sister and a friend to communicate these ideas to people whenever we can. Because I know Jonathan is all over Orlando talking to people. You're not ashamed to talk to people and about these subjects at all, right?
No subject. I mean, you know, I'm a persona non grata, you know, absolute pariah, and probably, you know, in every room and corridor of power in Orlando. I mean, I'm the single person that has ever been trespassed from City Hall, trespassed from the county administration building. I'm the single person who was literally sentenced to leave Orlando for 5 years, not return, sell my house in 30 days. I was sentenced to that, all because of my activism and my advocacy. And that was found to be an illegal sentence and was against the Charter of the United Nations. You can't tell anybody where they can and cannot live. But this was legally done in a court of law. And, you know, we have a conviction relief statute now that is pursuing that issue. But you got to understand something. If you're going to advocate for the interests of our people, there is a cost. There is a price that you must pay. And so many of our people have paid for it with their physical lives, their economic lives, their political lives, and their sociological lives. But that is a price that must be paid, because I still believe in the words of Patrick Henry, give me liberty or give me death. I still believe that those many thousands of Africans that chose to die in the sea rather than to be subjected to slavery are some of the bravest and most revered people in our history.
And just as a confirmation of that, give me liberty or give me death, I think it was interesting that John Baptiste, a wonderful musician from New Orleans, African American, won 4 Grammys this year on his #1 song, Freedom. On that album that Freedom was on, 4 Grammys. He won more Grammys than anyone else at the Grammys, and the most popular song was Freedom. So that seems to say it all for all of us to give me liberty or give me death. That's kind of the charge we need to have. And liberty is certainly, I think, in living in a smaller house, not a McMansion, and then talking and communicating to people like Jonathan and myself who are ready to fight for our freedom. We are doing it in different ways, but we need to keep the pressure on our government and local officials for freedom and sovereignty. So I think that says it all, really. And we want our grandchildren to have that same passion to keep a battle going for freedom, if nothing else. So, any last words?
Well, yeah, I mean, you're looking at someone who, at a very early age of 15, put his life on the line for that freedom and in defense of his freedom against one of the worst uh, KKK onslaught in history. And we defeated them, and we live to tell about it. And we're still here today to tell the story, but the story has to be told. So that's how much I appreciate this forum and any forum where I can communicate that history, because it's our story, not his story, that must be told.
And that, my friends, is Jonathan Sebastian Blount, who transitioned last week on July 20th to his eternal home. I am so grateful to have had a 20-year journey with that soul. I said, and if you would like to comment or give your feelings or expressions about Jonathan, here is you can call me on this number, and I'll open the phone if you'd like to say some words about Jonathan at this point. I remember having lunch with Jonathan at a Caribbean restaurant over on Colonial. For an hour, I laughed so hard because Jonathan had the most amazing stories about his adventure on this planet. And I remember Jonathan calling me. He was in a hotel and he said, I got to get out of this hotel by noon. I'm like, Jonathan, it's 9 o'clock in the morning. And he said, well, hi, okay, you need to get over here real quick. So I did it because I had so much love and respect for this man. And we had a beautiful platonic relationship. I always thought, though, I could get involved with John. He had the most beautiful eyes. He was so intelligent and so classy. In fact, I want to pull up this picture that the last picture I took of him at a 50-year celebration in Orlando that I shared it on TikTok because it reminded me of the song, This Is How We Do It. Such a classy man. So always dressed with the most sophisticated looking. And this evening he was just fairly casual. He had a cigar in his hand and wearing shades in this dark room with his typical hat on. Just amazing, amazing memory for me, this picture right here. And if you have any comments, let's see, I did see a comment from Brother Kwame. Thank you, Brother Kwame. He says, may he rest in peace and power. Absolutely. Rest, I don't think he's going to be resting at all on the other side. But yeah, he's going to be active. Just like Michael Jackson has transformed 3 industries at 17 years after his transition. I think Jonathan's going to be doing some tiny house work for us because he had a passion for that. And then Kwame says, Aquarius full moon, he has returned to the light. Yes. We're looking at a full moon reminding us of this beauty. And there you go, though, on that picture, there's a moon right there. I see that's actually a light, but maybe that represents the full moon energy that Jonathan represented wherever he went. Okay, he just had such a bright light and so much humor and passion. So I hope that this show has given you an appreciation for Jonathan Sebastian Blount, who blessed us in so many ways that it's just going to be something that we will always remember him for sure. For those of us, and if you want to call in, now's the time. We have gone a little over an hour, and I hope if this message that Jonathan brought, if this has been helpful or has blessed you in any way, let us know in the comments. And my this is my Cash App. If you'd like to give a donation to this channel, it's Cash App dollar Vieta Robinson. And I guess everyone doesn't, no one has really any comments about Jonathan, but maybe just share this for anyone who's wondering about Jonathan's history. I think in this last hour, I hope you heard enough about him to know what a very, very special man who left us at the age of 80, I believe. I don't think he was someone on the internet said 84, but no, Jonathan was born in 1945. So he was 80. Jonathan would have been 81 in wait a minute, he just turned in October. Jonathan's birthday was October 14th, 1945, which was a 7. I know Mama AZ would be thinking about, he was born on a 7, which just shows how divine his journey was. And then he died, or he transitioned, because he's going to be doing some work. I just know he's going to be helping with Tiny House on July 20th, 2026, which was a 10. So Mama AZ has called in, and Mama AZ, your mic is open.
Dr. B, can you hear me?
Yeah, speak up.
Oh, that was so great.
I'm glad.
That was so great, Dr. V. I know he's giving thanks and he's there. He's so appreciative of that talk that you gave. And what's today's energy number?
Oh, what are we? 9, 10, 11, 2, 9. It's a 10, I believe. Oh, same number as his transition day. A 10.
Yes.
Okay, today's a 10. Or a 1.
Well, it's 1. That's right. You have planted a lot of seeds with his help. You know, it's amazing. It is just amazing that you chose this day to plant those seeds. And yeah, he's busy. He's Brother Kwame, I love you. I really do. And thank you for sending me that video. I got it. I understand. You know, I'm gonna say this right now. Brother Kwame's son Horace, he has been one of the most grounding forces in my life. And if my mother had not hooked it up, and others, Dr. V, for Brother Kwame and I to come back together in this lifetime, I probably wouldn't be here and this grounded. Because when I have issues about spiritual things, talking to people on the other side, and this, that, and the other, Brother Kwame has been one of the most rock solid grounders on this planet in this lifetime for Mama Bonfire, Robert Paris. And I love you for that, Brother Kwame. Thank you for allowing me to stay on this planet. And I'm going to say, if it had not been for that talk that Brother Kwame and another sister who authored a book, I can't think of the name of the book, but she lived down the street from me in Arizona. And she and Brother Kwame kept me from committing myself to Butner. And if the people don't know who Butner is like 24th and Van Buren, the psychotic house, in North Carolina. So
you know that's
give
where Jonathan was born in Monroe, North Carolina. Do you know where Monroe is?
Yes.
Okay, that was his birthplace. So how convenient, how interesting that was.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, I'm not gonna cry, y'all.
Yeah.
But I'm giving you your kudos now, Brother Kwame, and I thank you for keeping me grounded on this planet to experience you, Dr. V, Brother Kwame, Indy B, all of them, all of you who have been in my life up to this point, and including Minister Cynthia Marie Williams. I thank us.
Okay, well, thank you. Thank us for calling. And I hope that you all have enjoyed this conversation and getting to know this very sophisticated trailblazer, Jonathan Sebastian Blount, who paved the way to bring self-esteem to Black women. And boy, do we need that now. This younger generation needs to know who Jonathan Blount is and what he started years ago that helped us as Black women love our hair, love our skin, love everything about us. And Jonathan, even in his time with me in Orlando, I always felt like I had to dress up with him. I would never go around Jonathan dressed down because he was always expecting the highest standard in a woman. He would always.
He has that air, Dr. V.
Yes.
And I might want to add, I'm looking forward, now that I've seen this with you and this dear brother, I'm reaching out to you to do my life with the others on the other side, including Reverend A. Allen, and my journey with learning about him and Miracle Valley. And by the time you decide and we get the monies to get you here, you will be in connection again with Reverend Allen's great-granddaughter, Rebecca Allen Jones.
So
now that I've seen this,
so we'll look forward to that. But I want to say one more thing. I want to say one more thing about Jonathan Sebastian Blount.
Yes.
He represented a very high standard of sophistication and trailblazing. And just recently, I have this quick grandma story. My granddaughter wanted to go for a walk with her bonnet on. I know your bonnet that usually you wear at night, covering your hair. And grandma was like, I don't think you should do that. Don't go outside with a bonnet. And her dad was like, well, yeah, we shouldn't do that. But I'm going to just let you go outside with the bonnet. Do you know that very same night? And so there was a conflict there for a moment about wearing the bonnet outside. That very same night, Tuskegee, I think it was Tuskegee University, or one of the Black universities posted a news item that said they are banning bonnets and do-rags on the campus. And so the question for the family here in this house is, well, why would they do that? And so I showed it to my granddaughter that evening. I said, honey, they're banning it because the standards of dress and morals and sophistication have gone to a new low among the Black community, in my opinion. And you don't have to follow grandma's advice. But honey, when the major Black universities in this country are starting to set the standard and banning things like do-rags and bonnets, it's saying, I think the message like Jonathan Blount represents right here is that we need to get back to a higher standard of appearances and prepare these young people for life. You are not going to be wearing a bonnet in a job interview and you still have a lot of people who are judging you, not just about your skin color, but about because you're wearing certain ghetto clothing or whatever. So that's just my opinion. And I think we should take Jonathan's advice, Jonathan's persona, Jonathan's message that he has left us. The man always wore a hat. He always looked classy, always looked debonair and sophisticated and intelligent. And that's how you live to be 80 years old, even though you go through the jungles of Orlando fighting police and doing all the things he did. So he had a crazy life in Orlando that I got to be a small part of, with such laughter and conversation and support for this amazing soul. So here's to you, Jonathan Sebastian Blount, for setting the standards high and for reminding us where you came from Essence Magazine to the streets of Orlando, helping the homeless, helping the downtrodden, helping others, and still maintaining your sophistication and classiness. Mwah! My hat's off to you. I love you, Jonathan, forever. And just remember that Jonathan has work to do on the other side. Don't be too sad. But I think we should just celebrate this man's 80 years on the planet and just be so grateful for what he taught each and every one of us. I'm sure if you knew Jonathan, he taught you quite a few things, as he did me. And we can always be just so grateful that he stayed with us for 80 years to give us exactly what we needed. So thank you all for joining me. I hope you'll share this with your friends and family as a message to all of us of what greatness looks like and what we need to shoot for. Especially maybe send this to your younger friends and family to remind them that this man is a legend and a reminder of all that we need to be successful and to be considered a wonderful, amazing person on this planet. So I love you all. And to all my yogi friends out there, namaste and sat nam and ashe, ashe, oh, aho, aho. And thank you, Jonathan, for all the love and all the laughter and all the jokes and everything about your beautiful life. I just give a thanks. In fact, there is something on here. I saw here we go. That's for you, Jonathan Blount. So everybody have a good evening, and we'll see you on Friday for health and well-being with Beata. Mwah. Love you, Shane. Thank you.
The cook could put it in her. The cook could put in her. And her could was in this order. Could the cook request could or in her. The cook could put it in her. The cook could put in her. I looked at my dress with mad push loud. On the bed with bad to cool type of yow. The cook's a hopper, a car papa R. Penenza put the cook on as a order. Who's to get a limit to order a zempa, haka kept a cataract, a theater hand. Tashiya, what you want is out one. The fear would have kabali a calat noon. I kick the geek of moon to a part of sad. I knew get a was, look at Papa Garage. I knew I went for Papa leg. I knew I got what you I could get that. I knew could do the coach edition ain't yet. I knew could do la mother was part of that. I do free Papa that, the guy was that moon for nas that super do I got the horse. The cook could put it in her. Yeah, the cook could put